mean, unless you're making
like a lot of money.
$1 million,
like
something, or maybe 500,000. You have to be making a considerable amount of money to be able to save your way into wealth. And that is just very unlikely for the average person.
Yeah.
Saving alone, your money doesn't have a chance to grow, and it's just going to stay there. When you actually invest your money, it has time to grow. And interestingly enough, I had a conversation with a person today. And we just did a small investment calculation off of what he has been doing by saving his money compared to investing it.
2 cents a month under interest.
Nothing actually.
If that much.
And you know what he said? He starts sweating actually. He's like, when did I bring you all my money today?
Yeah.
Because the difference is extreme, because you end up going from having enough in case of an emergency to having enough to actually build generational wealth.
Yeah.
Welcome to StorWealth Conversations, Unlocking Financial Freedom, the podcast that brings you practical tools, timeless wisdom, and real conversations to help you take control of your financial future. Hosted by Charlene Storr, certified public accountant and financial coach. This show is your space to learn, reflect, and act, whether you're rebuilding, getting started, or ready to grow. Today's conversation is about investing to create wealth, not just making money, but growing it intentionally through smart, strategic decisions. Whether you're just starting or looking to go deeper, this episode breaks down what it means to invest with purpose and confidence. Joining Charlene in the conversation are 2 experienced professionals from RF Bank and Trust. Quentin Gibson began his career in banking as a teller and steadily rose to become a securities investment advisor. Along the way, he earned industry certifications and built a strong personal brand, FinIQ by Q, where he educates others on wealth building and financial freedom through content, conversations, and practical tips. Dominic Stubbs brings over a decade of experience in financial services and currently serves as a securities investment advisor, a graduate of the University of Missouri and active community leader. Dominic is passionate about helping others and understand how saving and investing can shape their future. Together, they'll unpack the mindset, the method, and the movement from saving and risk to long-term growth, and how everyday people can start making their money work for them. So if you're ready to learn how to invest with intention, lean in and let the unlocking begin.
Welcome to StorWealth Conversations, Unlocking Financial Freedom. Today, we're talking about investments. It's one thing to make money. It's another to build wealth. Today, I'm joined by my friends from RF Group, and we want to talk about how to make your money work for you. Quentin Gibson, Dominic Stubbs, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Let's start with the big picture. Why is investing so important?
You want to tackle that?
So essentially, and Quentin and I, we have done countless presentations and live streams, and Quentin himself has his own YouTube channel where, these are things that he discussed. For us, we just feel like investing is, one of the few ways that you can actually truly build wealth.
Yeah.
Right.
We understand that we go to work, we work, we get a salary, we make money, that's it. But, when you start talking about actually building wealth and as in, as you have inside your little slogan, unlocking your financial freedom, the sure path that you have to, accomplishing these goals is through investing. Yeah. So, when you want to talk about, building your wealth, unlocking your financial freedom, investing is the only way you can go in terms of doing that.
Completely agree. Yeah. So when it comes to building wealth and just overall financial freedom, it's very unlikely that you'll just make enough money to get to that point. You have to actually put your money into something and allow it to work in the background while you're constantly trying to add more I guess, fire, like fuel to the fire and allow it to grow and, a bit of a blaze to happen for you to actually have that financial freedom that you'd like to have. So,
I really liked how you compared it to building, starting off as a small fire, because, and I'm sure it's something that we're going to get to later, but understanding that in certain instances, it has to start out small. You have a little small spark, and then over time, by continuing to feed into it, you then start to build that fire into a larger flame, and hopefully you have some containable blaze that's going on.
Containable is important.
Containable is important.
Right.
But I love that analogy you use, man.
Thank you.
There are a lot of us who, for a long time, thought the way to wealth is to save.
Yeah.
Saving versus investing. What's the difference, and why is that so important? Understanding that difference.
You mind if I start this one?
Yeah, man, you got it. Go ahead.
Saving, unless you're making
like a lot of money,
$1 million,
like
something, no, maybe 500,000. You have to be making a considerable amount of money to be able to save your way into wealth, and that is just very unlikely for the average person. Saving alone, your money doesn't have a chance to grow, and it's just going to stay there. When you actually invest your money, it has time to grow. And interestingly enough, I had a conversation with a person today. And we just did a small investment calculation off of what he has been doing by saving his money compared to investing it.
2 cents a month under interest?
Nothing actually.
If that much.
And you know what he said? He starts sweating actually. He's like, when did I bring you all my money today?
Yeah.
Because the difference is extreme, because you end up going from having enough in case of an emergency to having enough to actually build generational wealth. So that your kids don't have to worry about finances. So majority of us won't have or make enough. Even the higher earners still won't make enough to just save your way to wealth, because you have to spend money to live.
I mean, especially when we consider the cost of living
rising.
Listen, if I know, especially growing up, you heard so much about inflation and the cost of living, and, understanding that now, and I feel like anyone can see it, just based off going to the food store, what you could have purchased with $100.
Absolutely.
5 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even 2 years ago is substantially less than what you can purchase now. And that's another important thing that comes with investing is, when you save, and this is no knock on saving, there's we have this belief, and we've talked about this in different presentations where, there are different circumstances where saving does work.
Saving has its place.
Saving has its place.
Absolutely.
But, when we're talking about, building wealth and unlocking that financial freedom, you can't accomplish that through savings. And one of the things with savings is that you tend to lose your purchasing power over time. Like I said, we can see it ourselves when we go into the food stores, when we go to the restaurants. And so that's why it's so important, if you're not doing it, to at least consider what investing would do for you.
The difference.
Now, I do make the position that saving is your first line of defense. Right?
Just about to
so you're saving for expenses that'll come up and ongoing things, but you're also saving to invest.
Exactly.
Right? So now that we've crossed that hurdle, yes, we've been doing some savings, and we have something there that's available for investing. So for the person who has yet to make that step, how do they get started?
So that's just the next step on the financial ladder, the financial pyramid.
Financial pyramid,
right?
yeah.
You go from kind of managing your expenses, saving, and now to investing. And the first step you probably want to make is just opening an investment account, a brokerage account. Through opening a brokerage account, you get access to a wide range of investment options that are actually affordable, that you can actually come into and start investing. I know a lot of people sometimes want to focus on real estate as their first investment. That requires so much.
That's very much a Bohemian thing.
Right.
Yes.
Very much a Bohemian thing.
Let's say opening a brokerage account and then going into, let's say, a mutual fund. The upfront cost is so much lower. You can get into a mutual fund $500 to $1,000.
And you can probably build that down payment for that real property so much faster, right?
Yes, exactly. And you'll actually start building your wealth in that moment. You're not saving to build it in the future. You're actually starting to do it now. And the craziest thing is it'll probably be a more feasible and more advantageous way of getting to your first real estate purchase.
Absolutely.
Than actually just putting it aside and saving the money.
So,
Exactly.
so let's say this person that's listening goes, okay, I was saving money toward this down payment and I am a way off. And okay, I buy into what you're saying. I can actually increase the power of this few dollars that I have now. And they're reaching out to you to open this brokerage account. What does that look like? How much money do I need to start an account with you?
Well, Quinton, he alluded to it earlier. You can start off with as little as $500. So usually the range is
$500.
$500.
I think most of us have $500.
I would hope. I would hope.
Yeah.
But
Hopefully.
hopefully, $500 to $1,000 is the range that we would start you off with. We would just open up a brokerage account. You would take this money to start off, and if you can, we encourage people, if that's a possibility, try to consistently put something there, even if it's just the minimum of $100. Because, if we go and we plug and play this into an annuity calculator, you can actually see how your money can build up within a 5-year period, within a 10-year period, and you can actually see the change that occurs. So it's not and I think this is what happens a lot of times, because I have people who come to me and they'll be like, yeah, man, Dominic, I'm going to come to you soon, but I need to save some of this money. I need to put some money, save some money so I can come to you. And I'm like, listen, you could start off with as low as $500 to $1,000. A lot of times what I try to tell people is, you don't have to save whatever little bit that you have. Let's get you started. Because that time that you're trying to save, that same money that you have could have actually been
growing,
accruing some interest, And so now, because you wanted to take 6 months, that's 6 months of potential interest that you would have passed up on, So a lot of times I'm like, listen, just get started. Now, obviously, there are more questions and a little bit more information we're gonna look for, especially if you want the best advice from us. We would tell you what's your entire financial situation like. What kind of financial health are you in? Sometimes
do you have an emergency savings?
Yes.
Are you in a position where
maybe you shouldn't be investing?
Exactly.
All right.
Let's build up something first.
Right.
All right. Okay. You guys getting ahead of me slightly.
Apologies. We're passionate.
Sorry, we get excited about these things.
I
We
love
get
it.
excited about these things.
Okay. So let's assume I have the 500 or the 1,000. And for me, get the book, Staging Your Financial Comeback, Keys to Your Financial Freedom, because you want to understand this. You have a buffer for your expenses that will come up. And this is not the 500 or 1,000 you need next week for rent.
Correct. And I love that you say
Please,
that, because
right.
that's one of the main things to try to ensure people understand.
Please.
Have yourself a rainy day fund, an emergency fund, a buffer, whatever you want to call it. We just want to make sure that you actually have something there. Because at the end of the day, we don't want you to have to keep coming back to us. Hey, I need to take this off.
I need a little something off of that.
Yeah. It's your money. But we want to discourage you from having to continue to pick from it, because in the long term, you're not allowing it to actually build and grow.
And I think even psychologically, that's being accessible to your wealth building plan is a bad idea.
Correct.
Thinking about it in that way.
Yeah. So, we have the buffer, and this is money that's actually free to invest. But I'm afraid. I don't want to lose my money. What's your response to the person that thinks and feel that way?
My initial response is, I need to get this person to a place of understanding.
Yep.
Because if you don't actually understand what it is you're going to put your money into,
It's going to sound very scary.
It's going to sound scary.
Yes.
And I don't even suggest that you do it. I don't suggest that anyone invest into things they don't understand.
I'm
always going to go to the place, okay, let's reel it back a bit. Let me see if I can explain this to you from the beginning to get you comfortable. So my response to that is, okay, how can we get you comfortable? What is it why are you scared?
Right.
Maybe you are scared of fluctuations in your returns. How can I explain to you that is going to be normal and actually advantageous for you in the long term?
Yeah, because a lot of times, especially, in this case where we can just assume that this person is novice to all of this, and they don't really know exactly what's going on. And what they do know may be from others, and their experiences and all of that. And so that's why, and I agree with Quentin, it's something that I do on a day-to-day basis, especially dealing with any new clients who aren't familiar with the idea of investing, is I want to make sure you understand exactly what you're putting your money into.
Yeah.
And I think that's of high importance, that as a someone who's starting to invest, you need to have a clear idea of how this works. Because now, like, when certain things happen, you're less
erratic in your responses.
You're less
more comfortable.
Right, because so now you're less concerned, like you said, about if any fluctuations happen. And so that's why it's important to make sure, a client understands, hey, you can kind of expect this to go this way, but just keep in mind that this isn't just a month-to-month, year-to-year thing. We have a 3-year plan or we have a 5-year plan, and let's stick to that plan versus having someone who doesn't necessarily understand the idea of investing and that it's a long-term thing. We love to, I know, and Quentin can agree, 5 years is almost like that sweet spot of what you give yourself in terms of allowing an investment to work. Obviously, if certain things happen in between, if you have to, you make adjustments.
Right.
But for the most part, everything staying status quo, we usually say, hey, give yourself 5 years. So making sure that, this person understands what it is that they're placing their money into, to me, is probably bar none the most important thing that we can do as advisors prior to having someone, get into a mutual fund or decide that they're going to buy shares in particular companies.
When we talk about investments, the whole concept of risk tolerance comes up.
Yeah.
How do you identify risk? I mean, what I'm prepared to put on the table and potentially lose or gain may be different from what someone else may do.
Yeah.
What are the considerations that goes into helping a client identify what we call their risk tolerance?
Right. I think firstly, I assess their personality.
Yep.
If they seem as a bit, conservative, I ask questions to kind of confirm or deny that. Some persons may seem outgoing, but they're very timid when it comes to their money. Yeah. Other persons seem very shy, but they're I understand this and I want to invest. So I kind of get a deep dive of that person's personality and, their character.
Also their financial health as well.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the second part I go into, tapping into, okay, well, where do you have, like say, emergency savings?
Right.
Have you actually done investments before?
What is your debt situation like? There are a ton of different questions that come up. As a matter of fact, we have a actual risk profile assessment that, if a client wants to, we can provide them with it. It's just a series of questions based on how you respond. You tally the marks and it lets you know where you fall. But I definitely agree with Quentin. A lot of times this is where you go and you build a rapport with the client and you ask the client certain questions. You learn who the client is as a person. Sometimes personalities dictate where they go. Some people are shy and some people are, and I wouldn't say that they're afraid or they're scary. They're just more timid and more cautious. And even so in situations like that, you may meet a person who is extremely cautious and you still have to feel them out. And sometimes you have to be like, hey, I know that you want to go the most conservative route, but considering, and another thing that we didn't mention, considering your age, considering your financial status and all of these things, you should actually be a bit more aggressive. So, hey, you may want to go here, but let's go one step above. Yeah. And so, these are a lot of the questions and the discussions that come up that helps us in helping a client to figure out, hey, what is your risk tolerance like?
Yeah. And for the average person coming in, let's say someone coming in at 1,000, someone coming in at 5,000, 10,000, what are some of the vehicles that are common across those different, let's call them investment tiers, right? Yeah. What are the options available? Let's talk about our local market.
There's a lot of different options available. Typically in that range, most persons fall into the category of going into a mutual fund. Yeah. Developing your own diversified portfolio of different securities is going to typically require a little more capital than that. So we're going to just get you into a mutual fund, which is already a diversified portfolio. just line you up with the fund that actually aligns with your risk profile the most. But outside of that, we have a local stock market, publicly traded companies, and they've done very well. Our local equity fund is invested into those particular companies, and that has the highest long-term average of all of our funds.
Let's talk about the equity fund for the person who's going, say, what now?
Yeah.
What is an equity fund?
So in this case,
let's assume we're talking to people who have not yet started.
Yeah.
So I'll just take this one.
Yeah.
So we're specifically speaking about the mutual funds now, and with our mutual fund options, they're basically broken down by risk profiles. We have a conservative, we have a moderate, we have aggressive. These are all local, within these local options, the conservative would be more so mutual funds. And I guess I'll have to even give a quick rundown on what a mutual fund is. A mutual fund is simply an investment vehicle where you have other securities in this case being whether it's shares in a company, bonds, corporate notes, preference shares, even other mutual funds. All of these make up a mutual fund. The mutual fund itself takes pooled money from the investors being anyone who has decided to put money into this fund. Money is pooled, given to an investment manager who is 9 to 5, and then 5 to 9 is to find what are the best investment opportunities in a particular market, and then base that fund off the risk profile. So within a conservative fund, you will find what we consider more fixed income securities, bonds, preference shares, corporate notes. These are conservative in nature. They would make up the conservative fund. In an aggressive fund, you're more likely to find equities, hence what he said with the equity fund.
Stocks and shares of
Stocks and
companies.
shares.
Yes.
And then the moderate fund would be a combination of the fixed income, the conservative, and the equity, the aggressive, all together. So within the equity fund, we're talking about what you would find invested in the equity fund would be companies that actually are traded, in this case, because we're speaking about the local equity fund, that are traded on the local stock market. And so when you're, like Quentin said, the equity fund is considered our most aggressive mutual fund, at least long term, in terms of the kind of return that you can get. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier when you were talking about when you're really having this discussion, trying to learn a client.
Right.
We talked about age.
Right.
I had a number of people approach me after putting this book out. Please write a book on retirement. And interestingly enough, it's from the person who is ready to retire.
Yes.
They're a year or two out, or already have the retirement check in their hand. What do you have that's available for the person who retired or retiring, got a lump sum? How do I make the most of this?
So what we have something called a personal retirement account.
The PRA.
It's an account that you would use where basically you invest the funds into a more conservative investment fund that Dom would have been talking about, mostly made up of fixed income securities. But it has an aspect of it that actually has a distribution that you can have monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, annually.
Ad hoc basis too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can have that account, I think, is probably most ideal for a person that's like, okay, I got this lump sum. I don't really understand investing. I just want it to be simple. That would be the route.
Especially if it's money that they intend to live off of.
Yes.
Which I think most persons in retirement.
So that's where the distribution part of it, like Quentin would have mentioned, really comes into play. Because now instead of you having, and just for clarity, the minimum is 100,000. Let's just say you have 100,000, and this was your large pension payout. It's better to put it into that where it's going to actually be invested and it's still going to accumulate return and earn some money versus you just having the 100,000 basically for safekeeping in your regular bank account.
Likely not safekeeping. Likely a diminishing.
Well, first of all, nothing in life is for free, they say. And so the bank still needs to make their money. So this may be, we holding it safe for you.
Yeah.
But because
I mean, even the person themselves.
But that's true too.
Because they don't now you no longer have active income. So you're
starting to pick.
And one of the things that comes up often when I'm coaching people through like job layoffs, for example, where you're made redundant and you walk away with a package. The the money is never as much as you think it is on day one. And once we start running those numbers and we do something as simple as how much money will you have coming in and how much you have going out. And when we look at what the net is each month, every month this is coming off of it. Do you see where this money is going to be or not be in 3 years and 5 years? Right? So certainly investing is the way to go. What are some of the common pitfalls, like for the person who says, all right, I want to invest. What are some of the pitfalls that you see for people coming to you?
Typically, it'll be a person that we discussed earlier that maybe not wanting to take enough risk starting out.
Most definitely.
I think another one, is I think persons come into it thinking that they need to almost be a financial analyst to start investing. And I'm like, no, that's not even my job. Right? I'm like, you don't have to understand every word. And no, like you need to understand the basics of how this works and why it's beneficial to you to start. Because what happens now is you're going to say, I want to start this thing. And then 3 years go by and you don't do anything because you feel frozen.
Immobilized by fear.
Exactly. So I think number one is taking a little more risk. And then number two, knowing that you don't need to know everything before you start.
And then I'll also point out sometimes you have people who come into it with a bit too high of expectation. We can't turn $1,000 to $1,000 into $1 million in like 3 years. I'm sorry,
because I would be on the beach right now.
If that was possible, trust me, I probably will not
be in Mexico.
Would not be. And so sometimes you have a lot of people who come in with a bit too high of expectation. And sometimes because they're going into it and they're thinking, I want to hit a lick. They completely miss the overall journey that actually comes along with investing. Yes, you may not be able to turn this 1,000 into $1 million, but at least not 3 years. But this 1,000 in about 3 years' time, especially if you consistently contribute to it, or you made the right decision in terms of what you invested in, you may end up seeing a 30% increase.
In the 3 years.
And it's possible, depending on what you go into, it's possible. I can speak.
Has an average of 9% over the last 5 years. Almost 50% return.
Which has the 9%?
The equity fund, aggressive. So it's
9% on average.
9.72
somewhere around
percent over the last 5 years. That's essentially a 50% return over the last 5 years.
Okay.
So it's possible.
Yeah. All right. So expectations, we're saying, and the 9% was on your moderate fund.
No, aggressive fund.
The equity fund.
What does it look like on conservative? So that's one. That's the higher end. What does the conservative one look like?
About
what you've seen over the last 5?
I think around about 3 to 4%.
Okay.
Somewhere around.
All right. So if you're coming in conservatively,
all right. So if we were to give a range for all, and this is not just the average, this is just in kind of mid-range, right? Conservative, 3. Possibly up to 4% recently, but I would actually say, anywhere from 3 to 4% right now. Moderate, I would say
6 to 8.
6 to 8.
And this is not this is another thing I have to say though. The more conservative fund has more of a year-to-year performance that you could expect.
Yeah.
The more, when you go into moderate and aggressive.
Or be more specific, when you start adding the equity side to it.
So as you start and add more equities into things, it's no longer going to be based on a year-to-year projection. We're now looking long-term averages of 5 to 10 years. So in the 6 to 8 projection category, that's not year-to-year. That's over the long term. We want to make sure that our investors are averaging that type of return.
Because it could be, 1 year is a 4% gain, and then the following year it could be all the way up to 8, 9, 10%.
Could be 25.
Yeah, that's true. So that is why, with the conservative is what it is, because year to year you have more of a idea of what to expect versus with the others, especially
it's the fixed income.
Yes.
Right. Okay. And I guess it's worth saying, because that's what happened in the last 5 years. There's no guarantee that that's what happens this year and going forward.
Correct.
But the idea is that's the benchmark that we're looking at and what can be a reasonable expectation.
And I think an important thing for us to make sure we say to your audience is, these returns, we're not guaranteeing these returns. And past performance does not always indicate or guarantee future performance. But we can give you an idea of what we expect just based off, certain things we know, especially if we're talking about different companies and what the expectations are. So, we don't want it to be a situation like, oh, I saw you on StorWealth and you said that we could have gotten 7 to 8%. And now I'm stuck with someone who is expecting every year 7 to 8%.
Yeah.
Even though,
that just won't happen.
Yes, circumstances in the market may have occurred that prevented us from getting that 7 to 8%.
I think an important thing to say is we're not guaranteeing anything, but RF as a company, our goal, we have a standard for ourselves. We have projections that we want to uphold for our investors. We're looking out for you. That is our business model to help clients create and manage wealth.
Correct.
So I think with that being our standard and our model, knowing that means that if you do see a negative performance, we're doing everything we can to combat that.
Yes. And generally with investments, if you hang in there, for the long haul.
Like I say, it's this, but then when you start to look at it 10, 20 years, it's still this, but it happening up here versus down here.
Yes.
Over time, equities always go up over the long term.
And it's something that, we tend to say, and, people who within the industry would say as well, you don't want to make a paper loss into a real loss.
For sure.
So sometimes, you have to kind of stick it out. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't look too good. Case in point, folks that were in the equity fund, the local equity fund, lost 2% in COVID, in the COVID year, 2020, lost 2%, right? The following 2 years after that, it was about 17%, and then 15%. So, and the funny thing about it, prior to the COVID year, it was up about 18%.
Yeah.
And so, you have to, sometimes, you get so caught up on the, I lost 2%. But if you had looked over this over a 4-year period, 18, 17, 16, and all you had was a 2% loss, the spread, you won big time.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times, people miss what's the saying? You miss the forest for the trees.
And some of it too is emotional
Yes.
investing, right?
Yes.
So you see the price going up, so you buy, but you bought at the height.
Yes.
And then you see it dropping down, so you sell.
Yes.
It's
All
a
the
Warren
wrong
Buffett
moves.
quote. What it says, it's a buy when persons are panicking, and sell when persons are greedy.
Yeah.
So that's what you should really be doing. Because when it comes to investing, I typically tell persons, I don't even want you to truly get excited about the large years. Because it's not about large years. It's about the growth of your finances over the long term.
Yeah.
That's what I want you to be excited about. I want you to look back. I want the version of you now to look back 10 years and say, I'm happy he was doing what he was doing.
Yeah.
Or she.
Yeah. Guys, I knew this would happen. We're out of time, and I felt like we just got started.
Yeah, we were just warming up too.
Yeah.
But the person listening, I'm sold. I want to get in. I'm about to pick up the phone. What do I want to say? Who am I calling? How do I get this done?
All right. So you could.
Well, you can, first of all, if you ready to get the ball rolling, just call 603-6000. That is our number at RF Bank and Trust. Someone will definitely answer the call and just be like, hey, I saw Dominic and I saw Quentin on StorWealth Conversations. I want to get started. And they will definitely point you in the right direction to us.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
Simple as that.
In any closing words?
For anyone out there that is curious about investing or scared to invest or, just maybe a little on edge, I can tell you, even sitting here as an advisor now, I was there. I've been there. I've been that person, and I'm no longer that person. So if I feel like if I can do it, so can you.
And just to piggyback off what Quentin said, I absolutely agree. I know there is a lot of fear that comes along with the idea of this is my hard-earned money. I don't want to lose it. And that is one thing that I would say I see all the time at Bahamians. We are naturally risk-averse when it comes to our money. Because why? We work hard for this.
Yes.
You don't want to...
We biggity.
Yeah. Sometimes we make some questionable decisions, but when it really comes down to it, we're fiercely protective of, our money and our wealth and all of that what we would have built up. So I say that all to say there's nothing to fear. We have different tiers of investment options for you. If you are someone who is deathly afraid, we can just put you into the conservative and let you get a little 3 or 4%, which still trumps anything you get from the bank.
Yeah.
So just don't be afraid. Just pick up the phone or shoot us an email, and let's just get the ball rolling.
My friends, it starts with information. I hope that this session was impactful for you. You've been working hard for your money. It's now time for your money to work for you. It's been said, and it's worth repeating. The best time to start investing was yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
The second best time
Is
right now.
I like
sure.
that.
Stay tuned for Unlocked.
Looking to get your finances back on track? Your journey to financial freedom starts at StorWealth.net, your go-to hub for practical tools, resources, and strategies to help you take control of your money and your future. Click on the Know Your Numbers tab to begin building your financial plan. This free tool helps you get a clear picture of your finances by tracking what you own, what you owe, and how money flows in and out of your life. It's simple, private, and designed to give you clarity fast. Once you complete the exercise, head to the Request an Appointment page to book your free 30-minute consultation. We'll help you turn your numbers into a real plan, tailored to your goals, lifestyle, and challenges. Visit StorWealth.net today and take the first step toward building a confident and intentional financial life.
To persons who are shopping for insurance, I would give you the advice of, first and foremost, check the integrity of the insurer. There are many insurance industries within the Bahamas. You can always call around, ask around, find out how their claims histories are, how quickly their payouts are, how fairly their payouts are.
Mm-hmm.
I would also advise them to don't think anything isn't important. If you can share as much as you can with your agent, we can help you as much as possible.
Okay.
And we will direct you in the right path that you need to go to get that security and that peace of mind that everybody
Yes.
needs, especially in this day and time.
Welcome to Unlocked on StorWealth Conversations. In our key segment, we discussed investments and how to grow your money. But proper financial stewardship isn't just about growing your money, it's also about protecting it. Joining me today is Miss Ilana Miners, Underwriting Manager of Shield Insurance Brokers. Ilana, welcome to this conversation.
Thank you, Charlene. I'm so pleased to be here today.
Thank you. Now, important question. Why should new investors think about insurance as a part of their overall wealth building plan?
I can definitely piggyback off what you said. Building wealth is not only about growing your money, but it also is about protecting it.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Bahamas, where we often see so many different risks, such as hurricanes, property damage, things that happen unexpectedly, protecting your wealth is very important, especially if it's new. So the insurance aspect of it would operate as a safety net.
Yes.
And an analogy that we like to use is as simple as having a garden. You would do what you need to do to protect your garden, and that can come into the form of erecting a gate. And so insurance works in that way.
Perfect.
You invest into many things, you erect a gate to protect it, and that gate is insurance. So
Awesome.
That's very important.
Okay.
Yeah.
What types of cover do you normally see people using to protect their investments?
Privately, we
Mm-hmm.
do see a lot of homeowners policies. So
Okay.
that would cover your private dwelling. Also persons that have rental units like triplexes, duplexes, condos. That is one of the top coverages we see, as well as commercially. We have persons who take out the coverage for their commercial building. So that can be your storefront, your office. Those are important, as well as the liability. In protecting your company per se, liability that we have seen has been one of the most asked about insurance of recent. And I think it's because now that has been one of the minimum requirements that a lot of small businesses or new businesses have been required to have in order to protect not only themselves against liabilities to others, but also potential lawsuits. So that one is another popular one that we commonly see within the industry.
Talk to me about liability coverage, because that isn't something in the past that we would have seen a lot of.
Yeah, I must say, with my few years in the industry, liability requests have been coming in more frequent. The liability coverage, it's designed to protect businesses, and not only businesses, because we find that persons that have rental properties, apartments, condos, duplex, they also do take out the liability coverage.
Okay.
But it's designed to protect you against liabilities for not only just bodily injuries, but as well as your property. And you can also have it covered for your employees as well. So for public liabilities, we see a lot of them coming in because a lot of small businesses, especially here in the Bahamas, they are required to have that coverage.
Okay.
Yes. And a lot of the bigger companies as well, they do inquire on that. They do take that out, as well as like I said, the employee liability. So you have the coverage for both the general public as well as your employees working within your company.
Okay. When we're choosing insurance, what are the top 2 or 3 things we need to be looking at beyond the cost of the premium?
Well, that is actually a pretty good question. I would say cost is still important. That has been one of the most popular questions we get. What is my premium going to cost me?
Right.
But apart from cost, I would say that value is also key. So when you're choosing an insurance coverage, you need to find out what it is that you're getting, find out what you are being covered for, as well as what you're not being covered for. And a lot of times you can have surprises when claims come. So in selecting your coverage, just make sure that you ask many questions to find out what you're covered for, what the policy does not cover.
What are some of the things that people assume they have coverage for and it may or may not?
One of the most popular ones that we tend to see is the open driving coverage on a vehicle.
I see.
Some companies do offer it automatically on each policy, where you can have any person that's 25 to 69 with a valid driver's license covered. And then you would find that some insurers, that is something that you have to request for. And so we find that a lot of time persons allow others to drive their vehicle, and not until something happens, they realize that my policy only had me as the driver. And so that is an unpleasant surprise that we find happen a lot among our clients.
For drivers, anything in home insurance that are surprises?
Yes, with the home insurance, you can have coverage that can cover you, including hurricane catastrophe as well as excluding hurricane catastrophe. And so persons assume that if they have home coverage, they're automatically covered for every.
I cannot imagine home coverage without coverage for hurricanes.
In this country, I don't think anybody should have coverage excluding hurricane, but we do have persons that opt to get the coverage without it. And I would also like to add that given the recent spike of fires that we've been seeing around the country of recent, especially for commercial businesses, even if you don't include the hurricane coverage, try to always inquire and ensure that you at least have the fire part of it covered, because not all the time that is covered. So that is also equally important.
Just out of curiosity, if you insure a home and have neither fire nor hurricane, what are you insuring?
Boy, you'd only be covered for a few other elements like flooding.
Okay.
You have theft as well, and vandalism. You have stuff like that.
Okay.
But you also have to keep in mind, too, that certain damages or certain aspects of a claim may not necessarily be covered, because you may have a tree fall onto your home that may not be covered in your policy because that tree fell as a result of a hurricane.
And so you don't have hurricane coverage.
And because you don't have hurricane coverage, you may find that actually isn't covered. So that is why it's so good.
Read the fine print.
Yes, read the fine print and ask questions. Ask questions. If you don't know all the questions to ask, we always give a booklet that has all the policy wordings, and we always preach to our clients, please read your policy wording.
Ask questions.
Yes.
What about surprises in business cover? Any in that area?
Yes, we do come across a few of them. We back to the liabilities. We do have persons that take out the liability and they figure, okay, I have liability, so if anything happens, I'm covered. But it does not specifically operate that way, especially if you're working on something and there's some type of negligence that happened as a result of you working on that particular project. Okay. Your liability would not cover you for that damage. For those type of damages, we would have to recommend a professional indemnity policy that covers the actual works that you're doing. So a lot of persons, they assume that the liability would cover any damage, but that's not always the case.
Walk us through a basic claim experience, what that looks like when you have the right cover and it has been managed well.
So a basic claims experience, once you have the proper coverage in place, would, for example, back to property, let's say that you were to have damage sustained to your roof. The first thing that the client needs to do is contact the insurer or the broker. That is the most important thing we need to know as soon as possible. Once that is done, we can assign an assessor to go out and look at the damage. We may also require the client or the insurer to assist in that aspect by providing photos or any appraisals, anything that they have on hand that could assist with their claim. And once all of that is done, and of course your coverage is confirmed, the insurer can then go ahead and authorize for repairs or a payout. And everybody knows that once that point comes in place, you could breathe easier because you know you're getting things sorted out. So that is what a basic claim process should be. And throughout that process, a claims agent, a good claims agent or insurance rep would help you along the way. They would guide you so that you don't have to deal with it on your own. And if you have any questions, they're there to answer and to help you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
In closing, what advice would you give to someone shopping for insurance, whether that's for their home, for their vehicle, for their business?
To persons who are shopping for insurance, I would give you the advice of, first and foremost, check the integrity of the insurer. There are many insurance industries within the Bahamas. You can always call around, ask around, find out how their claims histories are, how quickly their payouts are, how fairly their payouts are. I would also advise them to don't think anything isn't important. If you can share as much as you can with your agent, we can help you as much as possible. Okay. And we will direct you in the right path that you need to go to get that security and that peace of mind that everybody needs, especially in this day and time.
All right. Yes. Ilana Minus, thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you for joining us on this segment of Unlocked. Investing is not just about growing wealth, it's about protecting it. So whether it's your home, your personal vehicle, your business, make sure you have the right coverage to protect your investments. This has been StorWealth Conversations. See you next time.